Hi, today I'm going to show you how to clean the filter on your swimming pool. This specifically is a Pentair system. Yours might be a little different. In case you've never done it before, I know the first time I did it there were a few things that kind of worried me, like seeing this connector on the filter tank. I thought, oh man, look at the size of that spring. When that thing pops loose, it's going to kill me. But really, it's only under tension when the whole thing's closed, and when you halfway loosen it, that spring won't even be under tension anymore. First of all, we don't want to do this while the system is under pressure, and it's running right now. So we're just going to turn it off. Okay. So there's basically three ways to know when it's time to clean your filter. One way is that both the chlorinator and the control panel on this will tell you that there's low flow, although I found that they are not the most reliable. The second way, which does seem to be the most reliable, is that on this pool anyway, they put in this clear valve, not valve, but gate that's got a flap in it. And if that flap is only out like 20 degrees, then the water's not going through there fast enough. If it's out at least 45 degrees, then it's probably flowing good. Surprisingly, the third way is by the pressure gauge on the filter itself. As you can see, especially if you have one of your own, there's a place marked start, and that's usually what the pressure's at right after you've cleaned the filter. And if it gets up to this higher level, that means it's trying to push water through a clogged filter and it's time to change it. To be honest, mine never gets up to that level. And in fact, right now, well, it's turned off right now, but if it were turned on, it's just barely above start. But that flap's hardly moving. It's reporting low flow. It's really my own fault because this pool was not taken care of well over the winter, and it got a lot of algae in it. And I've pretty much killed the algae, but now there's a ton of sediment that keeps clogging this up. So I have to clean this like every 3 days for a few cycles. Okay, first, now the pressure's off, all you do is get yourself a good sized wrench or a deep socket and just start screwing this brass fitting off. Now it's a little deceptive. It looks like it's only a ½ inch deep, but it actually has a shaft that goes in quite a ways. So you're gonna have to turn it quite a bit. After a while, you can do it by hand. Oh, very good. And it's not gonna pop off or anything. But I have found, at least on the way mine's set up, I keep hoping I don't have to take this off all the way, but it always just comes a little bit short, so it's easier just to take the whole darn thing off. As you can see, it goes out quite a ways. And just be careful, because once it comes off, there's a washer on each side, and you don't want to lose it. There. I'll just set that down. Now with that out, you can just kind of guide the bolt out, and then this whole belt collar comes off pretty easily. And then, tip number one. There might still be pressure. I should have actually done this before I took the collar off. If you turn this whole unit, I didn't know this at first, it lets the pressure out of the tank. And I'm happy to see that it didn't blow up in my face right now. I always wondered about that. I'm supposed to let the pressure off before I take the collar off, but there's not that much pressure in there. So then this whole top just comes off, and you'll see 4 large canister style filters here. And also importantly, up on the top, there's a little screen filter. This is usually the first thing that gets clogged up. And it's pretty nasty. We'll wash that off get to it. These arms on top of the filters, I should have brought out a screwdriver because sometimes they stick a little bit. But basically, it just pops off. Always one group is a little trickier than the other. So this little spaceship thing just comes off. It makes a lot of noise as it starts. It no longer is a closed system, so the water starts getting sucked back into the system. And these, just like on the top, the bottom just has an opening that fits over a grommet there. These actually aren't as bad as I thought they were going to be. I did just clean this a few days ago because it was full of algae. And they were all green and disgusting. Now they're just lightly green and disgusting, so it might have been more just to do with this stopped up cap than the actual filters. If you take a look inside here, you have the opposite of that piece. You have 4 openings down at the bottom. And this is all filled with nasty water full of algae. But fortunately, they made it easy to drain. Down here, there's another, just a little plastic valve. If you got a nice, sorry for all the debris. Some blue jays recently decided that this was going to be a good place to build a nest. Now when you unscrew this, it's going to dump all the rest of the water that's in here on the ground, so just make sure if you have an electric drill or something sitting around, you don't want to get all wet. It smells like a pond. So now that it's all apart, get out your garden hose and just kind of get rid of whatever other sediment might still be in the tank. Check this gasket. You don't want any grit on there. It won't make a tight seal. Get that little mesh screen popper thing and wash it off. Now for the filters themselves, you can either do it this way, get a pressure nozzle, or what I like to do is use a pressure sprayer. You can, you should turn it on first. When you use a pressure sprayer, you can instantly see how it changes color when you get the junk out. So you can do each filter in maybe 2 minutes like this. So I won't make you watch the whole thing. That's what I'm going to do, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, now that we've got these all sprayed off, we're just going to put them back in the filter. Here you can see a better view of all the little cups that these are connected to. Just kind of line it up, drop it in. Just do it by feel. And you put the little space station back on top. Just get them all lined up as best you can. Pretty easy. Don't forget the little screen goes on top. So I know it just drops in there. Okay. Then put your lid back on, making sure the gasket's where it's supposed to be. All level. This part takes a little coordination. get the collar on there evenly. Oh, when you put it together, this long bolt has to go back through this fitting. So actually, even though I've got it nicely in place, you still have to take it off because you got this pivots to make it easier. There we go. And then with that on, we put the washer, the spring, and the other washer, and the brass fitting. Now it's possible yours could be adjusted a little bit differently than mine, but I find that it's in its proper secure position when the ends of these two bands are about 1/4 inch apart. So just hand tight that as far as it'll go. It's about 3/4 of an inch. Recheck every little bit that it's still centered. Don't want to crack the case. And then, again, I won't make you watch the whole thing. Just get out your wrench. Okay, so now we skip ahead. We're just about 1/4 inch gap there. Seems to work fine here. The spring's starting to compress. So that's pretty good. I made sure along the way that this stayed well seated and centered. Don't forget to put the drain valve back in. It can be a little tricky to get the thread started. There we go. Not too tight, it is just plastic threads. Okay, now if you're done, you can turn the system back on, but while I've got it depressurized, we're going to do one more thing. We're going to clean out the basket. You may have done this before. Just give it a little whack. Remember, we're actually pretty good, not too much in here this time. Remember the first time I did this? This is going to make the whole video worthwhile to you. First time I did this, I had a terrible time turning the system back on and getting this thing properly primed where the water is all full. Make sure it's lined up the right way. It only goes in one way. So I run it and I'd use a hose to fill it up, and then I try to put the lid on as fast as possible and it would leak out. And when that happens, either the pump doesn't prime or it just makes a lot of noise. So what I found is the trick to doing that is when you turn it back on, do this little twist of the pressure valve up here, and it purges the air from the system as it fills up. It also purges all the air out of the basket. And after a little bit, it'll be full. You'll see water start spewing out the pressure valve. Let that run a couple seconds just so you get a nice steady stream, and then just twist it back down really easy. And there you have it. Now you can see, well, you might not be able to see, take my word for it. The little valve here is at a good 45 degrees instead of just barely coming open with the flow of the water. This guy's reporting good flow. It's blinking some nasty things at me because it's not quite up to speed and doing everything yet. Oops, now it's reporting bad flow, probably because it's filling up the solar panels and stuff still. Anyway, that's how you change the filter. It's really a lot easier and less scary than it seems. And that's how you change out the basket and bleed the system using the pipe. So thanks for watching, and I hope this helped you get a sparkling pool this summer. Bye.